Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I am your host, David Streggy, and here in the room I have the Inside Movies Galore crew. Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing tonight?
Doing well.
All right.
I am here.
So because this is a film that Jake has been waiting for us to get to, why don't you tell us a little bit about the synopsis of the film and what was your reaction to the film when you first saw it? And did you just recently watch it again? Or
Yes. Okay. So it makes it sound like I've been waiting on pins and needles for this. More like I threw it out in discussion, and it seemed like a popular idea. But
I had no idea what it was, so you're responsible.
Well, this is a film that actually Brandon and I had found when we were doing our advanced previews videos a few months back, and we saw that Criterion had a movie coming out that looked fascinating. It's a Polish film from 2015, so that, of course, took some comment from us because we don't believe Criterion needs to be putting out 2015 releases already. But basically, the gist of it is a very loose take on Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid, but it's done in such a way as to be very clearly anti Little Mermaid, both the Christian Andersen version and the Disney version. And on top of it, it's a horror-tinged musical set in the 80s. So you have lots of 80s-tastic synth music. And the first time I saw it, the whole time I'm sitting there going, what have I got myself into? And simultaneously, this is awesome. It was like one of those, I didn't know what to make of it. And I rewatched it to prepare for this because I did have to get it on this month's Criterion sale. And I think on second viewing, some of the pieces do fall into place, but it still is a strange, messy film.
You think so, huh?
Yes. But, yeah.
alrighty, since I've heard from you, Katie, why don't you tell me, was this a first-time watch for you?
Yes, this was a first-time watch for me, and I think it's probably my first Polish musical. So that was interesting. And I didn't know what to expect going in. I had no idea. I had no idea this was a Criterion release movie, so I just didn't know what to expect. And I was pleasantly surprised. I think I'm tiring of the mermaid storyline in general, because it's just a mermaid is just not a creature that I've ever connected to for any reason. So I think for that reason, I didn't love the movie, but I really liked it, and I think I want to watch it again because I think a second viewing would definitely help with this one. And I also thought that I might like to listen to the music without reading the goofy translated subtitles for it. I thought I might connect to the music better, just not reading the English version of the lyrics. So I want to go back and do that, and I just haven't had a chance since I watched the movie, but I liked it overall. I thought it was very entertaining, and I enjoyed the sort of the nightclub cabaret setting quite a bit, and the performance aspect of the story. And I thought it was a really interesting metaphor, I guess, for kind of what we see in, toxic masculinity and misogyny culture, how that relationship between, I think it was Silver and the whatever bass player guy. Yeah, I thought there was a lot of parallels to Me Too and just like I say, general toxic masculinity, how he demands this woman change herself basically like I don't love you the way you are, like not good enough, work harder and make it better, and then when you do, I'm going to reject you anyway. Like it was just a very interesting take on all of that. And like I said, I'm not super big on mermaids. I think I would have enjoyed it had it been any creature. Like it was a vibrant movie that I thought was different, weird in a very European way. So I'm interested to hear what everybody else thought.
Speaking of color, and I know,
European is a good term.
Yeah.
speaking of color, and I know you like the color schemes. What did you think of the color schemes behind the film?
I thought it was really, it popped for me. There was a lot that I enjoyed about the visuals in this film. And I think it was, I don't know, sometimes just the way certain scenes were shot that really, I don't know, they popped in a way that felt, I don't know, European. I don't know. Like I'm thinking of, the Italian movies that I like so much and how they're kind of shot in a certain way. It's really hard for me to explain. I just don't have the exact terminology in my mind of how I want to explain it. But yeah, there's just something about it that feels artistic in the way that it was shot, and like the colors that they use, and just the scenery, the setup. Like I said, a nightclub and mermaids, like interesting pairing, but it worked.
Okay. Dustin, why don't you tell me, was this a first time watch for you?
I like how we watch some unbelievably obscure foreign film, and you ask everybody, "Was this the first time you saw this? This was the first time I've heard of this." Like, yeah. But yeah, this was the first time I saw it, and it was well, let's see what hasn't been said already. It was very bizarre. I want to say either vivid or lurid. It's hard to tell. Like the music was really cool. I enjoyed that part of it. I was kind of confused a few times because it's like, wait, when is this supposed to be happening? Like I would get mixed up a couple times.
Supposedly, this is supposed to be happening in the 80s, and
yeah, that makes more sense with the setting that we saw there. Like it was basically a musical too. I mean,
believe it or not, some of the storyline was supposedly supposed to be reminiscent of the director. The director was actually female, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. The director's name is Agnieszka Smoczynska, and evidently her mother was an immigrant, and she evidently had to work her way through cabarets. So she somewhat loosely based some of the lifestyle that the mermaids went through on her mother's lifestyle. Whereas the writer, Robert Balestro, he kind of based the two mermaids on two friends of his that would frequent bars in the 80s.
That's pretty weird.
Did you notice anything about the surrounding background like you sometimes do?
I noticed there was a lot of detail put into most of the sets, and there's a good use of color. One thing that I'm sure somebody else is going to touch on this too, but one thing that sort of kind of bothered me, I'm trying to figure out like a delicate way to say this, like our characters looked really young, and I was kind of uncomfortable with like how often they were nude.
That's a European thing.
Well, I know it's a European thing. That doesn't mean it's still not kind of weird.
The one that played Silver was born in 1990, and the one that played Gold was born in 92. So they were young, but...
Did anyone notice how in every scene somebody was smoking too?
There was a lot of smoking.
There was a
Yeah.
lot of use of cigarettes and like really loud burning cigarettes. I kind of like that.
Actually, that was the 80s and Europe.
Totally.
And Europe.
Well, everybody smokes in Europe.
Going to Red Raven, I know this sounds like a stupid question, but was this a first-time watch for you?
Yeah, it was, and I thought it was really bizarre. But for a foreign film, I found it was easy to watch because there wasn't so much dialogue; it was more music.
Okay.
And usually in more foreign films, there's a lot of dialogue, so you kind of have to read fast. And so sometimes you miss stuff. And in this one, there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue, so it was easier to watch.
Okay. And what were your thoughts on the film? Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it overall. I thought it was really bizarre. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. But I like the concept of the mermaids, and the whole storyline was neat, I thought.
Okay. Was there a particular favorite scene that you could pick out that you entirely enjoyed?
I don't know, not that I can think of.
Okay. So, going over to Brandon. Why don't you tell me, was this a first-time watch for you, or was it a rewatch?
Actually, this was a first-time watch, though I picked it up in the Criterion sale this last time, but apparently I'd also picked it up the time before and not realized it, which benefited at least one person. But it was one that looked interesting, and one of my favorite musicals is most people's least favorite musical, which was Repo, the Genetic Opera. And
Most of my friends love that.
Yeah, and this had a lot of feel of that sort of darker tone, but it's also mixed with the feels of a lot of other ones, sort of like even She Creature with an almost carnival tone.
Okay.
I personally love the music and design when mixed together, though the story, I wasn't. Of course, I've never really been a fan of the mermaid story because it's a really tragic tale, if told correctly, and not Disney's Little Mermaid. And of course, with this, I knew it was going to end in tragedy. That's just how anything of this type goes. But otherwise, I was very impressed by the film, and as far as initial viewing, I was glad to see it.
Okay. And I myself, when I picked it up a couple of weeks back in preparation for this particular discussion, I watched it then, and I just kind of glanced through just to remember certain parts before I went before I came on tonight. And my thoughts on the film, it was definitely very visual. As far as when I seen mermaids' tails, the most real life looking mermaid was in fact one of them in She Creature, we had recently watched, but also in Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. But I also remember the Hans Christian Andersen musical where they told it in the story of a ballet. So to me, seeing those when the guy threw the water on their tails and they just literally took up the whole room.
They were basically sea serpents, yeah.
In fact, the director actually refers to them as Sisters of Dragons. In her thoughts on themes with the film. So to me, is seeing how large like they were, or at least when you first see them in their full extended tail natures.
Mhm.
It was different. As far as as far as the music went, I thought the music was lyrical and pretty. I'm not exactly sure how to describe some musicals by nature. I felt like some of the songs could have been a little harsher, maybe. Could have been sung with more intensity. For some reason, I felt like the music was soft. I don't know how to describe it, but
Did anyone notice how, like, every time they were singing, they were like staring right into the camera? Like, it was so intense. It almost seemed like the singer was the focal point, staring into the camera, and you were just moving around, and everything else was like a scenery in the background.
I would agree.
I would agree.
And I wonder if that was partly a function of the way they did it, because if I understand correctly, I think this is one of the ones where they actually performed live while they were filming, which maybe being more focused on the camera and by extension the sound equipment, that might have been something they had to do, but it definitely did give it sort of an intensity in terms of the visuals too.
Yeah, I felt like it was really stylistic.
Yeah, I read a lot of user comments on IMDb, and the lyrics take a lot of flack. And I have to agree that if I knew Polish, I'd have a better idea of what the lyrics were actually like. But the song sounded great, I thought. Sounded really good. And
Yeah, I think we just lose the nuance in the translation.
Yeah.
We're getting a literal translation that just, I don't know. I think it's a language barrier thing for me, at least, where I feel like that's why I don't connect to the lyrics.
I really would like to sit back and listen to the music without looking at the translation.
Right.
Which is why I really need to watch a film like that multiple times, because on the first time I'm constantly reading, and there's a little bit lost in the visuals and all of that. But after I've got the gist of the story, the next time I watch it, I can take more time to pay more attention to what's going on.
Did any one of you that knew of the film beforehand know that the original title was actually Corky Dancino, which meant the daughter of a dance?
I was wondering how that translated. Okay, made sense.
So I'm curious as to what that translation means in accordance to the film. Possibly because maybe the film somewhat had to do with dancing. Because not only did the band play music, but they also danced to it as well.
I loved the choreography of the numbers in the movie. Like, I was really drawn to that as a burlesque performer. There was a lot of that burlesque sideshow cabaret style performance in the movie, and
it did have
I was totally into that.
It did have that burlesque type feel to it.
Absolutely.
Did you think that the film would benefit from a dubbing of some sort, like an English dubbing?
No, not necessarily. I think I would just like to watch the movie and not pay attention to the subtitles when the music is playing. Like, I think I can get enough out of the feeling of the way the music is being delivered that I don't necessarily need to read the lyrics word for word. I think that threw me off into feeling like the music was cheesy, which is why I feel like I really need to go back and watch it again and just not focus on that for the music and just more get into the feeling of the music, because it felt powerful to me. But I think, like Red Raven was saying about when you're having to read subtitles, you know, there was a disconnect for me reading the subtitles of the lyrics of the songs and feeling like they were weird, like not, I guess, not like how I'm used to interpreting American song lyrics. So it seemed like some of the lyrics were out of place, and so there was a disconnect for me there. I think I just need to take the lyrics out of it, like reading the lyrics out of it, and just enjoy the music, and it will make more sense to me and be more cohesive.
Okay. So.
I will admit, there is one song lyric, though, that caught my attention the first time, and I saw it again this time. And I may have mentioned it in the run-up to this movie. I can't remember if I did or not. But it amused me so much. If you look at this through the idea of this film is sort of thumbing its nose at the Disney Little Mermaid, among other things. It really is taking that story and turning it on its head. The fact that there is that scene between Golden and the policewoman where they sing the line, "I'll take you to Disneyland." I just thought that was hilarious that they threw that in there.
That was kind of different. What did everyone think of the police woman who had come across the body of the intended victim of Golden and followed her to, shall I say, confront her?
There was a couple ways that I could interpret that one. That one was like, because I was trying to figure out, do the mermaids actually have power to seduce, or is it just that people are mesmerized by their voices?
Well,
because I feel like the cop really got seduced pretty quickly.
Well, like we were saying before in our sea creature discussion, there isn't that much difference between a mermaid and a siren.
Mm-hmm.
And a siren is a creature that can come from land, but also has been able to come from the sea and lure men to them by singing or calling or some kind of a noise.
Which makes sense.
And if you twist, if you twist that with that. What you know of a mermaid, and make the two one, and where she also is a creature of the sea, can swim along with the fishes, and then come onto land as well and seduce men the same way that in stories that we see from sirens. You know, I can see it that way. What about you?
Well, I was wondering then, how come Silver struggled so much with the bass player guy? You know, like she was not able to get him to love her exactly as she was, you know, seduce him into that or whatever. Was she purposely not? Or does she not have the power to?
I believe it's because she was beginning to fall in love with him. And throughout, whereas he was not.
But why, if she has that power, why can't she make him?
Because
maybe she didn't want to.
Yeah,
that was my question. That was the one thing that was I wasn't sure about. It like didn't make complete sense whether or not they had that power. Because like I said, that cop got seduced pretty quickly. She seemed pretty agreeable there after about 3 minutes.
To me, it kind of goes back to like like in the story of Aladdin and the genie. Like rule number 1: I cannot make people fall in love. It's just not possible. You cannot mess with free will. To me, so when he did not want to, you cannot make a man fall in love with you. You know, you just like many.
Well, so much for being a siren or a mermaid. Then
There's a difference.
where's the benefit?
There's a difference between a mesmerizing someone, hypnotizing them, glamoring them, something like that, and actually affecting their heart. You know what I mean? So, like, if all
Sure.
we need is to lure someone into the water or lure someone into a bed or whatever,
I'm wondering, is that where it stops? Is that where their power ends?
yeah,
When it comes to matters of the heart is a many-layered.
But she couldn't even lure him to sleep with her. He wouldn't stick it in her mermaid hole. He said no.
That was an interesting.
Like, here's my mermaid vagina down here at the bottom of my fishtail.
It's
kind of gross. Like at the beginning, like those guys are just like, "So is that it?" And they just like stick their hands in it like right away. What was that?
Dustin, what was your take on the club owner, the older gentleman in the film?
Like, what the? He was creepy. Although, then again, it's kind of hard for me to tell people apart sometimes. So I may have trouble recognizing him. But if that was that guy, it's like unethical. I think is
Reminded me
polite
of a
term.
mobster.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. I wanted to. This was Poland, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I tend to kind of think of that whole area as just like homogenous, and so it's like, why are I'm trying to not say I think every Eastern European like businessman is like a mob member in my mind, but apparently I just
It's a stereotype, Dustin. It's okay. All you know of the Eastern European man is the stereotypical mobster.
What were your thoughts of the club owner,
shit.
Katie?
Probably just the right amount of sleaze for me. I don't have to deal with too many sleazy club owners, but I feel like it fits the whole what they were going for. I mean, because essentially, these girls got taken advantage of, these mermaids, and kind of everybody was sleazy around their business practices with them. So I felt like he was kind of like that, just that right amount of sleazy, I don't know, a greedy kind of guy.
Well, what's interesting is that one of the themes of this film is that Smoczynska, she likened the mermaids to immigrants, abused by the locals, used in the sex industry on their way to reach their goal, which was America. So,
yet another metaphor.
He added that they represent innocence, and yet their odor and slime recalled urine. They menstruate, they ovulate, their bodies start smelling and feeling different. So,
Ooh, shit.
what
a thought to pause on, huh?
Yeah. What were Jacob? What were your thoughts on the club owner? What did you think of his character?
Has anyone seen the movie Downfall? The Untergang?
No.
I've seen that clip that they play over and over again online.
There's a YouTube meme on it, Hitler in the bunker talking to his lieutenants. Bruno Ganz plays Hitler in the movie. The club owner reminded me of Bruno Gantz's Hitler. It just the small man with the floppy hair and the bad mustache, and honestly, the sleaze factor was part of the reason why. But he seemed a much more decent fellow, obviously. But and actually, before this started, I did watch some more of the deleted scenes that they have, and he has a couple more scenes in that one. And he's an interesting character. Definitely, there weren't very many people in the movie that I would really necessarily want to know personally. Most of these people were a little, but he seemed like, a typical businessman in that world at that time, if that, makes sense,
Okay. Brandon, why don't you? What were your thoughts on the character of the club?
Well, I mean, I thought to myself when he started coming in there, my first thought was, so this must be an illegal operation or something, or at least something slimy, because that's how he came across. As of course the movie went on, and you learn that they're basically being forced to work for free, basically.
Well, yeah, because he's giving the money to the band leaders.
Yeah. And then of course, just the general fight that happens at the end of the movie. It's just, to me, he comes across as every bit the stereotypical, club boss, sort of like De Niro's character in Casino, except maybe not as charismatic. Maybe De Niro's character in Casino after he had become a lot older and more jaded.
Two more subjects I'm going to ask about. The first is the scene where it makes you think that, after the band leaders have rolled up the girls in rugs and thrown them over the sea, when it makes it look like they die somehow. What?
Yeah, that kind of that surprised the shit out of me. It's like, wait, did they just kill them? Like, it's a foreign film. They do this sometimes. All right, fine. What the hell?
That would have been a very abrupt way to end it.
So, that would be Dustin's thoughts. What were your thoughts on that scene, Red Raven?
I thought, like, at first, they were gonna die, but then I'm like, wait, they're mermaids. They're not gonna die. Like,
Okay.
I just thought it was bizarre. I was like, what are they trying to show here?
Exactly, and then all of a sudden they're standing in front of the club again. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Katie, what did you think of that scene?
I don't know. I just felt like it was a connecting scene to the next thing, because it felt like it would have been too abrupt to end things there. It didn't make logical sense that they were gonna die. So it felt like that was the transition to, I don't know, now they've basically been discarded by these people. Now what's their next move? How are they gonna approach? They're gonna come back. This is gonna change their relationship now with these people.
Do you think that maybe that was a thought of theirs that we were seeing, possibly? That they wanted to happen, but it didn't?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, they were rolled over the side and cast aside, but then all of a sudden we saw them dead. Could it be possible that this was a thought that they had passed?
Like a dream sequence or something,
Yeah.
you're saying?
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. That wasn't my first thought. I guess I didn't see that as being a dream sequence or whatever, but I just felt like it was a transition point to show how the deterioration of their relationship to these people,
Okay.
and kind of where things were headed.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was hilarious how they actually took them out. I mean, these creatures have been shown to be extremely powerful, and yet the club owner just punches them out.
And, like, right when they come back, they just, like, kill him.
Jacob, what did you think of that?
I admit I thought that was kind of weird myself. And I don't know that I had thought of it as potentially being a dream sequence. I guess I look at it as more like actually happening. But yeah, it was kind of weird, and maybe it was just kind of showing because if I remember correctly, I think that was where the relationship between them and the band really took a turn. And that could have been sort of like someone was saying, sort of them being cast aside. And then they showed back up like, we're not done yet, you know. Yeah.
One last remaining character, Triton, who is an interesting character, which Golden seems to take a liking to. Dustin, what did you think of the character of Triton?
I thought wasn't he a mer creature too?
Yeah, he just transitioned to a human somehow, cut his horns out of his head, I think, and cut his tail off or something. He had all the info on what happens to you if you transition to a human.
Well, for all I knew, it could have been a dream sequence. So I just wasn't sure if he was actually there or not. At least after that had been brought up. But I thought it was kind of nice to have something there to like tell the stakes. For like, you know, you have to kill this guy. Do it.
Right. Lay out some of the rules of being a mermaid and how that all works,
and this,
so that we understand it.
Or at least being a mermaid in that particular weird universe.
Right.
Which everything else was pretty different, so at least they had some clarification. So I think he was more of a plot device.
Yeah.
But, you know, the character was cool when he showed up.
What did you think of the character of Triton, Katie?
Pretty much the same thing that Dustin just said. Yeah, that he was the reason that, you know, we needed somebody to give us some history on these mermaids or like how this works now, because clearly Silver was interested in becoming human. And you know what was going to be her sacrifice to get there, and you know these warnings that she had been given about, you know, if she were to cut off her tail, she'll lose her voice, and it ends up happening. Like, I guess she didn't really believe it, but yeah. So I feel like that was the purpose of him. It was to give us some of that information.
Okay. Jacob, what did you think of the character of Triton?
Yeah, he definitely. Most of what they said is what I thought. Like he mostly was there for exposition. He did allow Golden an opportunity to show a little bit more of herself independently of Silver. You know, where she joined his band for that little punkish number that they did. Which was, you know, a little bit of that edge you were talking about with the music. One thing that I didn't notice until the second time around was, I think it was the first time that Silver smoked, and it was like that older woman gave her the cigarette.
Okay.
And she said something about, you'll lose your voice, and I'm sitting there going, oh, it's Ursula. And I was kind of interesting. But yeah, Triton was definitely the main one. And so, yes, he was important for context. He definitely did help. He did feel a little more expository than he probably needed to. But yeah, it was interesting.
Okay. Brandon, what did you think of the character of Triton?
Actually, I thought that he was a fun character, and I actually thought that he allowed for Gold to be more than just this inhuman monster type character that she ended up, you know, being portrayed as this, you know, creature that's here purely to prey on humans and you know, eat them. It gave her more of a voice, so to speak. As well as what everybody else said, but that's what I think could go on top of that. I think she helped. I mean, he helped with the character development.
Okay.
Of Gold.
Was there anything else that anybody else wanted to add?
How old were the girls supposed to be? Because there was that one scene where the girl stood up to them and said, you know, why can't we go outside and play like normal children, making it seem like they might have been younger than they were.
I don't really know how old they were. I never got a clear sense of that.
Well, I mentioned that earlier, that they looked like ridiculously young, and I mean, I guess it's just a European thing that
Ridiculously
everybody
young.
looks ridiculously young, but
They
Well,
looked
they-
ridiculously young, but they were supposedly years old as mermaids.
Yeah. And again, they were supposed to kind of represent sort of like innocence and
17th century old.
was that what that flashback was? Was that what that scene was in the beginning? Because it was a little fuzzy, or at least
It
on the
was like
copy I had.
animated.
14th to 16th century, actually.
you're talking about the opening sequence? I didn't even think of that as a flashback.
Wasn't that opening sequence animated?
Yeah.
I was talking about the beginning, like when they're singing.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's just how they got found by the band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
That's who those people were.
I had one question because I know most of the people here are much bigger horror fans than I am. How did everyone think of the horror aspect, the practical effects and whatnot? I haven't really heard anyone mention that.
Oh, the effects were great.
Yeah, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
decent.
I
I
thought
love that whole scene in the beginning where they did the first transformation with the tail, which I thought was really cool.
Mhm.
I definitely thought that was entertaining, and then I thought that the song where they were first introduced, where their tails were in that punch bowl looking thing.
That was my favorite scene in the movie. Their first performance.
That effect was very cool.
Mhm.
I mean, to show them as mermaids to the club patrons. That way, that was entertaining. So I wonder what the crowd would have been like at that point in time if it had actually been the 80s. Because you definitely would think that all of a sudden just want to see this entertainment. Would they consider it a freak show or entertainment?
Or both?
I think
I
they
thought
responded to it as entertainment.
Yeah.
They were not treated like in that last movie where it's like an attraction at a carnival or something. They were definitely treated like performers, and it was a performance. And whether or not the people actually bought into the fact that they were really mermaids or not, they were entertained. And I think that was the general theme of what they were doing. They were bringing in the crowds, and it was almost like they set themselves up for their own failure too, because at one point, after Silver can't sing anymore, the club owner's like, oh, we only want duos or whatever. The people only want duos now. Like, you basically set a precedence, and now you can't live up to it anymore.
When they were good, when they were entertaining, they were sheltered because they even though they were basically not given the money that they were making, they were still taken care of while they were entertaining. And once she could no longer sing, and I thought one of the more gruesome parts of the film was when she actually had that surgery.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, that was
God.
messed up. What was that?
You saw an above scene where this human girl was laying there with her bottom half, totally off, and then they take that drill and then they cut her half and sew it onto that girl, who I think ultimately ended up being that recording artist that dude met.
That was weird. Did that girl volunteer? I wasn't really sure what the hell was happening.
Yeah, that
Well, there
wasn't
was a
very
mob
clear
aspect.
either. Like, yeah, did they just kidnap her, or like did she get to trade and get to be a mermaid, or did she get the other half?
Or did she actually sell her bottom half for a certain sum? We don't know whether she did that either. To get some money.
It could have been
Some unanswered questions.
It could have been like a black market research experiment. Like, we're going to graft a tail onto you and see if it takes, and we'll give you this much. Who knows?
Could have.
No, all you got to do is possibly die. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just that easy. Just let's just cut her in half and sew this half over here, and just make hope to God that the skin pigmentation work.
And after she gets her new human lower torso and finally gets to have sex with her true love, he gets grossed out by a little blood.
Yeah.
Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba. That sucks. Dude was a jerk.
I thought there was like a teeth kind of thing going on. I thought she had somehow like injured him, and I was like, oh no, and it's like, oh wait.
No, he's just rubbing up on her surgery blood,
Yeah, I mean, at least let her heal first.
Right?
It just
Dude was a huge jerk.
It takes a male to faint at the sight of blood.
Well, and again, just a very accurate metaphor for toxic masculinity in our culture. How women will go to the ends of the earth to change themselves for a man, and then they'll still get rejected. And it's all about, and he still got within her lifetime, he still got to be happy. I mean, he died right after she died, but
right.
she wouldn't even kill him because she loved him so much. She spared him and let herself turn to sea foam. And as far as that dude was concerned, he was going off and marrying this other chick, and he was happily ever after. So
what's interesting is that's when it comes back to this Disney anti-ness, because you realize that it's Golden and Silver that is at a wedding party, and they're watching him marry this other chick. Well, that happened in the Disney's Little Mermaid, almost. But Ariel found her voice back, whereas here, he actually did marry her.
And of course, in the original tale, she did turn into sea foam, which
yeah, that was going to be the actual.
Yeah, which I thought was one of the really cool things that they did, having sisters instead of one mermaid, because it gave them the opportunity to show the original ending and then say, this is how it's supposed to go.
Though, I mean, one thing that was touched on, which was the whole dream concept, I felt like, I don't know if anybody else felt like this, but I felt like most of the movie felt surreal and dreamlike.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And so sometimes there were sequences that you had to wonder, was this really happening, or was this a dream? And that was one of the things I thought was unique about the film, was that surreal nature, that unreality.
I think that's what I liked about it.
That was a big theme that I noticed too. It was hard to tell. It was really just hard to tell what was going on a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Was there anything else that anyone else wanted to say?
I thought their creature design was pretty cool. And they were when they would kill people, it was genuinely ugh. Because normally stuff like that doesn't get that kind of reaction from me. It's more like, oh, neat. But this time it was just kind of eh.
Well, and it was more in the sense that they would just go for the jugular instead of a sense of their hands transforming into something, or arms, or whatever. Did Golden go full mermaid when she killed that couple in the car, or
I think she did, because she came out of the car full mermaid.
Yeah.
that's what I thought. So, in a sense, they almost have to be transitioned into that mermaid body to kill a person.
Well, she didn't at the end. You know, she ripped his throat out with no problem.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't exactly have to be a mermaid to kill someone. Alrighty. Well, did anyone think that we've covered everything?
Yeah.
There is sort of a related thing I've always wondered. So you mentioned this was a Criterion Collection release. So why does the Criterion Collection sometimes release films like this, like just bizarre foreign films, or like how do they automatically get put into the Criterion pantheon?
Well, normally the Criterion releases often have have a history of.
They're supposed to have historical significance to film or be like really influential, but I've seen a handful of more or less brand new movies just get right onto the Criterion Collection. I'm kind of wondering how that happens.
And this
But
is
we're bothered by that on a regular basis because usually the Criterion was originally meant to be a great film that had some bearing of study, especially for other people who are interested in making film.
Yeah.
They could have an edition that had a full analysis going that they could utilize to understand where the other filmmakers were, what they were doing, and how they could have gone about to make something similar. That aspect is more lost when you try and release something right away.
Yeah.
So I do not understand their reasoning in releasing right away these days. It boggles me.
This one had been released in Poland, I think, a year or two before it got an American release, and it hit the festival circuit for a year or two before it got an American release. But Criterion, I think this is the first physical release in America. And yeah, they have bonus features. This is not the skimpiest set I've seen from Criterion. But yeah, it would have been nice, especially because this is the kind of film that's probably going to end up with a cult following. It would have been give it 5 or 6 years to marinate and let that cult get going, and then you'd have some more fun stuff to add, And this has been one thing we often talk about on the channel. It's like, but for comparison, the 2 Criterion Blu-rays I watched in the last 2 weeks, Galore, you could watch all the special features, read all the special features probably in 2 hours. Rebecca, there's so many, I don't even know where to start. It's huge. But incidentally, I wanted to ask, did anyone read the essay that came with the release?
If I had it, I would have. I would have if I had it.
The essay that came with the release?
Yeah.
Yeah, Arrow and usually Criterion too include like a mini booklet with like an essay.
Okay.
And those are always worthwhile reading, even on the new releases. They put in really nice essays.
Inside booklet of the thing. That would be the inside booklet of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a little insert.
Okay.
It's usually about 20-30 pages, but most of the pages are just like a paragraph and a picture.
Open this up, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 pages.
Yeah.
So, and it was written by Angela Lavelle.
But they had an interesting little comment in there that I was going to insert when we were talking about the surgery. That was like, they said that it was like she was on the ice like the catch of the day. And I'm like, well, that's an interesting and disturbing way to fit in.
Sometimes I think with film writing, people project it a little bit too much.
Right.
It's like, oh, she's on the ice like the catch of the day. It's like, was that actually intentional, or did you just think that was funny? Or
well, artistic film people are a little bit like scientists, where they look at things like very coldly and reptilian sometimes. And in some, I mean, some scholars are very scholarly. You know, they're very bookish. So when you think of when they can say something that, you know, that descriptive and morbid, and without blinking an eye, you know, it makes you wonder about people sometimes. But
Yeah.
alrighty, so I think we're going to end it on that note. Did you, Brandon, want to tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do?
Yes. My name is Brandon Farmer. I run a channel called Septum Sen versus the World. We are a movie-oriented channel, which is primarily focused on physical releases of most media, be it games, music, books, but mostly movies. And we have had another top 15 that is coming out that I have mostly finished editing and unfortunately can't do anything with because we have a lack of internet. But when we do get internet back, there will be a number of videos coming to the future. But the top 15, matter of fact, I'll let Kotobuki Jake tell you all about what that is coming up, since he was involved and initially suggested it.
Okay. Kotobuki Jake, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Jake. I'm also from Central Virginia, and the one that he's talking about is it's a direct follow-up to the last one we did, which was the 15 anime that need an American release. This is the ones that really need a re-release. Like either the company that put them out before went under and they never put out, and no one else picked it up, or it just was a pricey series that for some reason the distributor was like, yeah, we don't want that one anymore, you know. So
Alligator.
What's that?
Alligator.
Yeah, I would have.
I remember that anime.
I could see that coming out on an Arrow release.
I'm thinking Vestron, because it doesn't technically Lionsgate own Alligator. That's what the last DVD is from.
Yeah, I'm not sure with that one. But Lionsgate probably has a lot of odd choices.
I'd say American Psycho as well, because the Blu-ray they have for it now, like, it's got some decent stuff on it, but it's mostly pretty mealy.
Yeah. So yeah, and we have other ideas, ones we want to toy with, and Criterion releases is one we plan to do just in time for the November sale. With the very distinct rule of nothing within 5 years, like nothing that soon. But as far as my own channel, I actually did post 2 more videos last week. They're very short. Actually, Dustin, you might like them because it was this little snake video.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's always
DK's brown snake, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep that one going, but I'm very lazy about working on it. But
oh yeah, and we do have a feature with Dustin in it for one of the videos, should it ever get posted.
Oh, cool! I made it. Yeah, so you guys wanted me to start doing some videos where I just sort of, so most of my stuff comes from wherever I find it, like around Milwaukee. And I found some pretty cool stuff over the years, and we thought it might be a fun idea to, take something off the shelf, talk about where I found it, what it is, what makes it cool. And I did like a little, 3-4 minute thing where I talked about the first items I found when I moved here.
Do it.
So that's the video I did for Septum. That's gonna be in that larger thing.
Okay.
The pickups.
Alrighty. So, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, I'm Katie Cadaver from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a body positive horror artist and alternative model. You can find me on Patreon and Instagram at 3RDEYE0PEN. I'm also the makeup artist for the horror punk band Rat Bat Spider. You can listen to them on Bandcamp, or you can come and see them this Saturday, August 11th at Frank's Power Plant at 9 p.m. They're playing with the Slurs and Voice of Addiction. I am also a dead girl for Degger's Dark Coffin Classics horror TV show. You can watch episodes of the show at vimeo.com/ddcc. And I believe Deadger will be at the all-night flea market in Wheaton, Illinois. And I believe that is August 18th. So that coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll have to get more information next week for the show. And I am also a performer and producer for Grindhouse Tees Burlesque Productions. You can find us on Facebook at Grindhouse Tees. And I will also be performing this Friday with the Cream City Cabaret at 9 p.m. at Frank's Power Plant for the Flesh Trade After Party.
Oh yeah, I still need to go see that.
Yeah, you better get in there because tickets are selling out for that like every night. So it's really popular. So go see the Flesh Trade at the Alchemist Theater.
I really need to get to see you one of these nights. It's just I work till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I will keep announcing all of my performances right here. So if you can ever make one, that's awesome.
All right. Red Raven, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Red Raven, and I'm from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and I book shows in the Milwaukee area. And I'm also a dead girl at Deadger's Dark Coffin Classics.
Are you planning on when Hart Fisher has his second film festival, going to that, since that is...
Yeah, I'll check that out, definitely. And also, I'm planning on being at the Wheaton Flea Market on the 18th.
Cool. Dustin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Dustin. I live in Milwaukee and collect horror-related anything I can find. I show my stuff off on Instagram, DHR Hunter, all one word. I'm supposed to be an editor for Inside Movies Galore and have been struggling desperately to get a review done. But, yeah, well... We're going to look back on all these, oh, I can't get it done, and laugh eventually.
Because you'll eventually get it out.
So I also started being a guest on a pop culture podcast whose name I never remember, frankly.
Cool. And my name is David Struggy. I run this podcast, Inside Movies Galore, and I also blog at Movies Galore Milwaukee, which I have put on hold for right now because I'm working on video reviews lately on Inside Movies Galore, so that I can work on some of my voice talents and remembering the film as I watched it, kind of thing. But also, Wrestle Massacre has been finished. I have viewed a rough cut of it, and my review of it is out on Inside Movies Galore channel. So please definitely check my review out. It mentions a little bit of my relationship with the director and what I thought about it.
As somebody who's watched the review, it's I believe you've already released it, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
It was a fun review. I actually look forward to seeing it.
And for other things, I know I'm working with Dane on a couple of projects, but now my producer talents are up in the air right now, at least until I get some projects done. So definitely check our channel out. Please let us know down in the comments below what your thoughts on the film were, if you have seen it, and look forward to more films that we discuss here on Inside Movies Galore. Everyone say good night. Or
Night.
Good night, everybody.
does anyone wanna make a noise like a mermaid would have?
No.
No.
I don't want to do it. I can't do
Not
whale
really.
sounds.
Okay.
That was one thing I liked too. They did whale sound. They used like whale noises this time instead of like dolphins and weird bullshit. Like it was kind of nice.
Humpback whale or something like that.
Sperm
Alrighty.
whale.
Oh. Alrighty. Night all.